Hi guys, so this is going to be our assignment number 2, research methods and evaluating experiments and replication. We're going to be talking about finding a topic as well. So we were going to be examining a experiment by a health psychologist, and it's through a TED Talk. And looking at the 3 different studies, we're going to be looking at her hypothesis and also kind of pinpointing the independent variables, dependent variable, and data results of some of the things that she talked about. So we're going to be focusing mainly on stress. So stress is commonly referred to as the body's reaction to events that require attention or even adjustment. And so as we look at this, we're going to even assume that even the colors of this document are in a way thinking about and even trying to find ways to reduce stress. As we go through this, our central questions are going to be thinking about, can stress even be beneficial? And then looking at the hypothesis by McGonigal, and also challenging even our own views about stress. So we're also going to be at the end identifying research methods to even think about replicating some of the findings and some of the studies that she brought up. So let's go ahead and look at the first and most important part. Okay, we're going to be talking about hypothesis. So explore and hypothesize. So you're going to be thinking about stress. And so what is your opinion about how stress affects the body? And so the direction is telling you to write a hypothesis on stress in the body. And you will need to talk about the possibly mental or physical health. And then most importantly, operationally define how your hypothesis is going to be. And that's going to be if the hypothesis can be measurable and can it be very to the point, and also be able to give us an understanding of exactly what we're talking about. So I included a sentence starter here, and it says, uh, and you want to start with this idea of stress. So if stress is to maybe increase, decrease, or I guess agitate, or even any word you want to plug in there. But kind of think about this whole idea of what you're going to write. If stress blank for subject with maybe a good amount of uh, events and are juggling multiple things, will their mental and physical body begin to see signs of illness or threats? Or so however you want to write that hypothesis, put it in the green. So anytime you see green in this hyperdoc, that's actually a space where you know you need to kind of fill it. Okay, so I kind of color coded everything. The light green is going to be the area you write in. Okay, and so go ahead and look at the hypothesis. Do not do anything else until you finish the hypothesis, and then leave it alone. So make sure your hypothesis, you yourself are kind of thinking about something about stress, and you need to think about where and what you want to put in for your hypothesis about stress. Okay. All right, the next part is going to be the video, and it is called How to Make Stress My Friend. So as you kind of click on this, it'll take you to the TED Talk site, and there will be a transcript. Okay, so the transcript is going to be very helpful. It gives you the time and where it starts in the video. So if you want to go to maybe 504 and learn about something else, such as areas, which is a really good trick. Or you could just watch the video all the way through. And so there is a shortened version on, I guess, on YouTube. It's like 3 minutes long versus like 14 minutes long for this, but it leaves a lot of things out. And as we go through uh, all of this, it's going to give you a lot of things that you want to kind of dig into, a lot of psychology and psychological facts that are really handy to what we're going to be talking about, even in chapter 2. So make sure you look at this directly um, and answer these questions. This is just to see if you actually kind of went through the video and kind of understood it. C is probably one of the more difficult ones, but D is also going to be asking you to do a little bit of analysis. So in D, you're going to find the 3 studies on stress that McGonagall actually brings up in her talk. And I even provided you with transcript times. So if you go to these times, you'll find the studies, and then you just have to describe what they do, and then identify what the independent variable was, which is the thing that they manipulated from one group to the next, and then what they measured, which is the dependent variable. Okay, what did they measure to see? Okay, and so just kind of figuring that out isn't too hard because some of the studies are measuring the same dependent variables. So look at each of these 3 studies and see if it surprises you. Okay. All right, and the next part is analysis and comparison. So thank you for all those people that actually turned in um, your survey on wellness, and we're going to be looking at that. So first of all, we need to look at what hypothesis that McGonagall had in the TED Talk. And you're going to write that there. And then compare that with your hypothesis about stress. Okay, is it accurate? Is it similar, or is it different? And then we're going to be looking at some of our responses in our wellness survey. Okay, and so this whole section, there's nothing here to kind of do. So look for the numbers. So we're going to go to number 5, and here's some of the information from our wellness survey. So it was divided not into by teams or groups or even classes. It was actually divided by first responders. So the people that have responded the earliest, which was probably they responded on that Tuesday, and after that, anybody that was actually kind of waiting to the last minute. So like Wednesday morning, if you decide, okay, now I'm gonna finally do my like wellness survey, this is that group. And amazingly, we almost have the same amount of people. There's 28 first responders, whereas for the procrastinators, there's about 23 in that group. And I'm pretty sure I'm still taking in more because people still have not responded to some of this wellness survey. Okay. And so the group A and group B are just different in that sense. And they're actually from different psychology classes. They're from just different groups. And the only difference is that one group responded earlier than the other. And so question number 5 is asking you about this chart here. So what do you notice about the kind of stress in McGonagall's audience? So that's actually the first like 4 seconds of her discussing stress, and then also in our class. Okay, so if you look at it, where are the numbers and where are the most where's most of the stress levels going? Is it like ones, fives, or high tens, and 10 being the highest? So I mean the evidence is kind of obvious. And so the next question is asking you, can we find accurate sources that acknowledge stress as a natural silent killer? So what it's asking you to do is look up an address or look up a website that talks about how stress actually does kill. It actually is one of those that causes heart disease and heart failures. And so link that site and consider if that information is going to be from a case study or an experiment. And you can tell if it's a case study if they discuss only one person or 2 people who actually had these kind of cases. Or in any case, a case study would be anything that talks about a very specific factors that actually happen to cause this. An experiment obviously would be something that compares 2 groups that are randomly selected, and then they go into the whole spiel of how they actually got into the experiment and what the results were. All right, so number 7 and 8 are looking at the correlation between sleep and stress. So we looked at again at the first responders and the procrastinators. Which group actually had the most amount of sleep? And then the second one is thinking about asking you if there's any correlation or any relationship at all between stress and the amount of sleep. And looking at this chart and this chart, do you see any relationship? And then finally, we get at our replicate part. And replicate just means that how can we duplicate? And for now, we are not going to try to like do an experiment that requires us to see if anybody actually does. So we're going to replicate just on paper. And so we're only going to choose one of the three studies that McGonagall uses. So replicate parts or certain thoughts on stress through this assignment. And what we're looking for is kind of in a way, if you consider having all the resources at Rowan High School and being able to use those resources to gather data from. So that's almost 2,000 students and faculty. And you're going to be looking at if you could actually replicate at least one of these different studies. And that could be as easy as just asking questions about their health and their stress level, or it could be actually conducting an experiment like, the social experiment that we did in the beginning, and asking if their stress level went up based on, what happened in a severe situation where they had to speak. And so any of these ideas could actually work. And you just want to choose one of the three studies first, and then think about why you chose that study. And don't say just because, like, I think you'll do the easiest one to replicate. Think about more than that, like what you're trying to find out. And number 10 is going to ask you, if you were to replicate these findings, let's just say you chose B, okay? Can changing how we think about stress help us cope? And how would you replicate something like that? Okay, how would you replicate the study that McGonagall actually talked about? And I think that was the one about the social situation. And so you would actually need to talk about how would you look at an experiment? How would it look as a case study? And how would it look as just like a survey, okay? And how you will create that as a survey. And the survey part is actually kind of important because we are actually going to be creating a survey and hopefully being able to randomly select people to take it. But that is just another activity that we will be covering in another assignment. So make sure that you do all three. So you're going to pick one idea and then talk about it 3 times, okay, if it was going to be replicated differently as an experiment, a study, a case study, sorry, or a survey. And lastly, the last part you're going to do is look at and find your stretch quote. Okay, so I included here 60 inspirational quotes on stress. You're going to peruse through them. Here's one from William James: "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." And William James was an early American psychologist. He did do a lot of study, but he didn't really actually get to this point of actually studying the mind and uh, and most of our, I guess, disorders that we could talk about today. Can we really choose our thoughts? And in some situations, we probably cannot. So it's just something to think about. So there's actually a lot of different quotes here. And so you're going to put your quote here and then think about why you picked it and what do you think about it. So this is going to be a more of a reflection piece at the end. And just to conclude with these concluding quotes, just to help you think more about stress. Yeah, maybe try to help you think less about being stressed. There we go. All right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to email, use your mind, or just shoot me uh, a text. I don't think that actually can happen. But and anything else, look over these elements, and I will be happy to explain them again to you. Okay. So thank you for your time. Hopefully this instruction video was helpful. All right, guys. Good night.